A silent code is written into the world's most famous monuments. The Great Pyramid holds the precise value of pi within its stones, while the Parthenon's beauty springs from a secret mathematical ratio. This video uncovers 25 hidden geometric patterns, from the spirals of Gothic cathedrals to the celestial maps of Stonehenge, revealing a lost language of shape and proportion that connects humanity's greatest achievements. You will learn to see these iconic structures not as silent ruins, but as vibrant, speaking monuments that share a universal secret. How did cultures separated by continents and centuries all discover the same hidden blueprint for their greatest works? By the end, you will never look at a historical site the same way again. What part of our own world might be hiding a secret pattern we simply have not learned to see yet? This universal language was built on a single, profound idea. The universe itself is constructed from geometry. Look at the six-sided perfection of a snowflake or the vast spiral of a distant galaxy. These are not random accidents of nature. To the philosophers and builders of the ancient world, they were glimpses of a divine order, a hidden blueprint written into the fabric of reality. The Greek philosopher Plato taught that these perfect shapes, which we now call the Platonic solids, were the very models upon which the elements of the world were formed. Earth was a cube, fire a tetrahedron, air an octahedron, water an icosahedron, and the cosmos itself was symbolized by the dodecahedron. These forms were not just abstract ideas. They were considered the ideal truths that our imperfect world only approximates. This belief was not confined to one culture. From the temples of India to the pyramids of Egypt, we see the same patterns emerge, a shared visual vocabulary. The golden ratio, a specific proportional relationship often symbolized by the Greek letter phi, was seen as the formula for ultimate beauty and harmony. The Fibonacci sequence, where each number is the sum of the two preceding it, creates a spiral that mirrors the growth pattern of shells and sunflowers. So when an architect designed a temple, they were not merely stacking stones, they were attempting to recreate the perfect order of the heavens here on earth. The building itself became a bridge, a physical prayer connecting the human realm with the celestial. Every column, every arch, every measured space was imbued with this deeper, symbolic meaning. With this key in hand, the silent stones of our greatest monuments finally begin to speak. We can start our journey with the most enigmatic structure of them all, the Great Pyramid of Giza. Standing before the Great Pyramid is to witness a mountain of mathematical mysteries carved in stone. Its sheer scale is undeniable, but its true genius lies in the silent numbers woven into its form. Take the pyramid's base perimeter and divide it by twice its original height. The result is a figure astonishingly close to pi, the fundamental constant that defines a circle. This is no coincidence. A structure of perfect squares and triangles somehow holds the essence of a circle within its geometry, suggesting its builders understood a universal truth that would take centuries for other cultures to formally name. Further elevating this enigma, the ratio of the pyramid's slant height to half its base length closely approximates the golden ratio, phi. This specific proportion, roughly 1.618, appears throughout nature as a signature of beauty and growth. Its presence here implies a deliberate fusion of mathematical precision and deep symbolic meaning. The pyramid was far more than a tomb. It was a cosmic engine, its angles and dimensions perhaps designed to channel celestial power and guide a ruler's spirit on its journey to the stars. This incredible synthesis of form and function created a monument of immense stability and harmonic proportion, a silent testament to a knowledge of mathematics that feels almost out of place in time. So if the very first wonder we examine holds such profound secrets, what other codes are waiting to be cracked in the temples and cathedrals that followed high on the Acropolis? The Parthenon does not just command the skyline, it calms it. This temple achieves a sense of serene balance that feels almost supernatural, and its secret lies not in the marble itself, but in the silent mathematics governing its form. The entire façade is a masterclass in the golden rectangle, a shape whose proportions, length to height, equal the golden ratio phi. But this foundational harmony is only the beginning. Look closer and you will see that every single element is bound by this same proportional law. The spacing between the majestic columns, the precise dimensions of the triangular pediments above, even the subtle curves that make the structure appear perfectly straight to the human eye, all were calculated with an obsessive dedication to ratio. For the Greeks, this mathematical perfection was far more than an aesthetic choice. It was a philosophical statement. They saw the universe as a cosmos, a word that means both beauty and order. By building the Parthenon according to these divine proportions, they were creating a microcosm, a small piece of a rational and beautiful universe here on Earth. The temple was not merely a house for the goddess Athena. It was a physical prayer, a representation of a world governed by reason and harmony. This is why its beauty feels so timeless. It resonates with a universal order that we instinctively recognize. That intentional geometry created an enduring aesthetic appeal, a blueprint for ideal beauty that would echo through the centuries, influencing everything from Renaissance palaces to our modern skyscrapers. From the grounded, rational order of classical Greece, the quest for sacred geometry would soon reach for the heavens in a very different way, within the stone forests of medieval Europe's Gothic cathedrals. A labyrinth set into the stone floor of Chartres Cathedral offers more than a path for walking meditation. It is a perfect geometric diagram of the soul's journey toward enlightenment, a pilgrimage compressed into a circle 11 meters across. Winding through its intricate turns, a visitor traces a symbolic route from the outer world to a sacred center, a profound metaphor made physical through pure mathematics. This labyrinth is but one element in a vast symphony of shapes. The cathedral's entire blueprint is a conversation between squares, circles, and triangles, the fundamental building blocks of sacred geometry. Its breathtaking rose windows function as radiant mandalas, their stone tracery and stained glass forming complex patterns that draw the eye and the mind inward toward contemplation. Even the proportions of the nave itself, the long central aisle, are governed by the square root of 2. This specific ratio, approximately 1.414, was seen by medieval masons as a dynamic number, representing the moment the finite, a square, reaches out toward the infinite. It embodies the very transition from the earthly realm to the spiritual. Every arch, every vault, and every window was meticulously calculated. The building was not merely a place to worship, it was a three-dimensional theological text written in the language of geometry. It taught complex spiritual ideas not through words, but through space, light, and form, guiding the faithful on a multi-sensory journey. This application of geometry to map the spiritual realm was mirrored by other cultures who used it to chart the physical cosmos, creating monuments that doubled as celestial calendars. The stones of Stonehenge stand as silent witnesses to a celestial clockwork. Far from a random arrangement, its circles and horseshoes of massive sarsen stones form a precise geometric diagram, a sprawling observatory carved from the earth itself. At the heart of this design is a profound alignment with the heavens. The central axis, framed by the great trilithons, points directly to the heel stone, which captures the first ray of the summer solstice sunrise. This was no accident. It was a masterful application of geometry to track the sun and moon, turning the entire structure into a colossal calendar. The builders encoded their understanding of cyclical time into the very placement of the stones, creating a sacred space where the rhythms of the cosmos and the rituals of the community were one and the same. This was a place where people could physically witness the turning of the year, a testament to a sophisticated knowledge of astronomy that allowed them to harmonize their lives with the universe. The geometry of Stonehenge is not merely about shapes on the ground, but about mapping the grand, cyclical dance of the heavens. From the open expanse of Salisbury Plain, this ancient desire to connect geometry with the cosmos finds a parallel in a very different landscape, deep within the Cambodian jungle. Deep within the Cambodian jungle, Angkor Wat rises as a stone mountain range built by human hands. Yet this is far more than a collection of towers and courtyards. It is a perfect geometric representation of the entire cosmos. The entire complex is a vast, three-dimensional mandala, a sacred diagram of the universe. Its 5 central towers symbolize the peaks of Mount Meru, the mythical axis of the world in Hindu belief. These are enclosed by a series of concentric galleries, representing the mountain ranges that ring the cosmic center, and the entire structure is surrounded by an immense moat, depicting the primordial oceans at the edge of creation. Every step through this stone universe reinforces its symbolic power, transforming a physical journey into a spiritual ascent. This celestial blueprint was made even more potent by precise astronomical alignments. The temple's western entrance gate is positioned so that on the spring equinox, the sun rises directly over the central tower, a breathtaking event that marries the architecture to the heavens. This was not merely a beautiful coincidence, it was the entire point. The temple was designed as a machine for harmony, a place where the king and priests could align the human realm with the divine order through ritual and geometry. By walking the sacred paths of the mandala, they were navigating the very structure of reality itself. This profound desire to build a mirror of the heavens on earth was not unique to the Khmer Empire. Far across the world, in the high deserts of the Americas, another culture would express a similar vision through an entirely different architectural language, carving their own cosmic map directly into the living rock. The rigid geometry of Teotihuacan imposes a perfect grid upon the rugged Mexican highlands. This is not a city that grew organically, but one that was meticulously planned from its very foundation, a vast urban canvas ruled by the straight line and the right angle. Its central artery, the Avenue of the Dead, stretches for over 2 kilometers, forming a precise axis for the entire metropolis. Flanking this grand boulevard, the colossal Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon are not placed randomly. Their positions, along with the city's entire orientation, are skewed exactly 15.5 degrees east of true north. This specific alignment was not a surveying error, but a deliberate act. It points directly to the setting of the Pleiades star cluster, a celestial marker of profound importance to its builders. Some researchers have even proposed that the distances between the city's major pyramids reflect the proportional distances between the planets in our own solar system, suggesting the city was conceived as a terrestrial model of the cosmos. This master plan, executed on such an immense scale, speaks of a society with an astonishing command of mathematics and astronomy, a culture so dedicated to sacred order that they reshaped the very land itself into a perfect geometric diagram of their beliefs. The sheer ambition of this project required a highly centralized authority and a knowledge of surveying that feels incredibly advanced for its time. This was geometry as an act of power, a way to impose a divine blueprint onto the chaos of the natural world. From this ancient American city built on a cosmic grid, our search for hidden patterns leaps forward in time and across the ocean to the heart of the Renaissance, where a single building would come to embody the perfect synthesis of all the geometric principles we have explored. The human form itself became the ultimate architectural blueprint in the hands of Leonardo da Vinci. His iconic Vitruvian Man is far more than a simple sketch. It is a profound declaration that the universe's geometric order is written into our own bodies. Leonardo was giving visual form to the ideas of the ancient Roman architect Vitruvius, who proposed that a perfectly proportioned man could fit with equal perfection inside both a circle, representing the divine and celestial, and a square symbolizing the earthly and material. In this elegant diagram, the navel forms the precise center of the circle, while the man's outstretched fingertips and feet touch the boundaries of the square. This single image captures a stunning array of mathematical ratios, including the golden section, demonstrating that the human form is a living repository of sacred geometry. For Renaissance architects, this was a revelation. It meant that a building designed with the same proportions found in the human body would not only be inherently beautiful to the human eye, but also structurally sound and spiritually resonant. Churches, palaces, and public squares began to be conceived as magnified versions of the ideal human form, creating spaces that felt both harmonious and strangely familiar on a deeply instinctual level. This philosophy placed humanity at the very center of the cosmic order, measuring the universe not in abstract numbers, but in the span of our own arms and the symmetry of our frame. Yet this human-centric approach to sacred geometry was not the only path. While the Renaissance looked to the individual body for its proportions, another empire sought to reflect a different kind of order entirely, one built from countless tiny pieces forming a divine whole, as seen in the shimmering mosaics of Byzantium. The challenge of setting a circle upon a square was one of architecture's great puzzles, and its solution transformed the very skyline of Byzantium. The Hagia Sophia's dome does not simply rest on walls, it appears to hover, a golden hemisphere suspended by light. This miracle of apparent weightlessness was achieved through brilliant geometry. The architects masterfully employed curved triangular forms known as pendentives, which act as graceful spandrels in the upper corners of the square building. These spherical triangles create a continuous circular support at their peak, a stable ring upon which the massive dome could be seated. This was more than a structural innovation. It was a theological statement in stone. The seamless transition from the square base representing the earthly and material world to the perfect circle of the dome, symbolizing the heavens and the divine, enacted a spiritual ascent for every worshipper below. Light pours in through a ring of windows at the dome's base, making the heavy masonry seem to dissolve into a luminous crown. The architecture itself becomes a form of prayer, using geometric principles to create a space that feels both immense and intimate, guiding the gaze and the spirit upward. This Byzantine breakthrough in joining circle and square would echo for centuries, inspiring domes across the world. Yet another ancient culture developed its own ingenious and profoundly different solution to the same fundamental problem of uniting massive stones with perfect geometry without any mortar at all. High in the Andes, the Inca crafted walls that seemed to be woven from the living rock itself. High in the Andes, the walls of Sacsayhuaman are a testament to a different kind of geometric genius, one that embraced chaos to create unshakable order. The Inca did not rely on the straight line or the perfect square. Instead, they mastered a stonework of breathtaking complexity, using irregular polygonal blocks that fit together like a colossal, three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. This technique, known as ashlar masonry, resulted in walls where the seams between stones are so tight that not even a blade of grass can slip through, all achieved without a single drop of mortar. But this was far more than an aesthetic choice. It was a brilliant application of geometry for survival. The complex, interlocking shapes create a structure that is incredibly resilient, especially against the violent earthquakes that shake the region. When the ground trembles, a wall of uniform rectangular blocks might sway and collapse, but this intricate puzzle of polygons simply shifts and settles, the stones redistributing the energy before locking tightly back into place. The builders possessed an intuitive, profound knowledge of material properties and structural engineering, understanding that a network of diverse angles and interlocking forces creates a whole far stronger than the sum of its parts. The patterns themselves, a mosaic of multifaceted stones, are a hidden geometric art, a language of stability written directly into the mountainside. This practical mastery of shape and force raises a fascinating question. If geometry could be used to make walls earthquake-proof, what other invisible effects could it create? The answer lies not in stability, but in sound, as ancient builders learned to sculpt the very air itself with stone to produce perfect acoustics. From the Andes, where geometry gave stone the strength to dance with earthquakes, we journey to a hillside where taught stone to sing. The theatre at Epidaurus in Greece is an architectural instrument, its semicircular form carved into the earth not just to hold an audience but to perfectly conduct sound. Every one of its 14,000 seats is a precisely placed acoustic tile in a grand sonic design. The secret lies in the mathematical perfection of the cavea, the seating area. The stepped rows do not merely provide elevation, they function as a natural diffraction grating, a filter that breaks apart the chaotic noise of the wind and the crowd. This filtering process strips away the distracting low-frequency rumble while cleanly reflecting the higher frequencies of the human voice. An actor standing in the orchestra, the circular performance space at the center, could speak in a conversational tone and be heard with crystal clarity by the person in the very last row, over 100 meters away. This was not an accident of construction, but a deliberate application of geometric principles to shape the very air. The curve of the seating, the placement of the stage building, and the proportions of the performance circle all worked in concert to create a perfect acoustic envelope. In an age without microphones, geometry itself became the sound system, democratizing the experience of drama so that every citizen, regardless of their seat, could be equally immersed in the story. This mastery of shaping waves of sound through pure form finds a stunning parallel in another tradition, one that used geometry not to amplify the voice, but to capture the infinite in a single, silent, shimmering surface. A profound spiritual need to represent the infinite transformed walls into cosmic diagrams. In Islamic architecture, where figurative art was set aside, geometry became the primary language for expressing the divine. This restriction sparked an unparalleled creative explosion, giving rise to the breathtaking star patterns and interlacing polygons that cover the surfaces of mosques and madrasas from Spain to Persia. The secret behind many of these complex, endlessly repeating designs lies in a deceptively simple tool, the Jiri tile. These were not just decorative pieces, but a set of standardized tiles, each pre-carved with a specific set of lines, angles, and notches. A master craftsman could combine these 5 basic shapes, tiles shaped like stars, hexagons, and bows, following the encoded lines to create vast, expanding patterns with perfect mathematical consistency. The true miracle of this system was its ability to generate designs that never exactly repeat, flowing across a wall or ceiling in a perpetual, unfolding variation. This was a deliberate metaphor, a way to use mathematical order to visually express the infinite and limitless nature of God, a concept that could never be captured in a single image. The intellectual achievement is staggering. Modern mathematicians studying the 14th century patterns on the Darb-e-Imam shrine in Iran discovered they form a quasi-crystal, a structure with an ordered pattern that never repeats, a concept Western science would not formally define for another 600 years. This was not merely decoration, it was a spiritual meditation rendered in ceramic and stone, using the pure logic of shape to guide the mind toward a contemplation of eternal order and complexity. This application of geometry to define a collective identity on a massive scale finds a parallel in a city where a single, repeated shape came to symbolize not just a building, but an entire empire's power and ambition. The ideal city was not just a dream, it was a fortress shaped like a star. In the late 16th century, the Venetian Republic carved Pomonova directly into the Italian landscape, a settlement so geometrically perfect it feels like a diagram sprung to life. At its absolute center lies a hexagonal piazza, a vast public space from which 6, not 9, main streets radiate outward with mathematical precision. These boulevards slice through 2 concentric rings of defensive walls, creating a radial plan that is both a map for civic life and a masterwork of military engineering. The city's formidable outer walls are not a simple circle, but a complex star shape formed by 9 massive arrowhead-shaped bastions. This brilliant geometry was a direct response to the threat of cannon fire. Each projecting bastion was designed to provide a clear line of sight and overlapping fields of fire along the walls, ensuring that any attacker approaching the fortifications would be exposed to defensive fire from multiple angles simultaneously. But this martial function was only half the story. For Renaissance thinkers, this geometric perfection was a utopian ideal. They believed that a city built upon rational, harmonious principles would, in turn, produce a rational and harmonious society. Every citizen lived in an equal relationship to the center, every street followed a logical path, and the entire community was protected by a shield of pure mathematics. Pomonova was an attempt to build heaven on earth using a ruler and a compass, a place where human order could withstand the chaos of the world. This grand experiment in applying geometry to social structure stands in stark contrast to another ancient site, where geometry was used not for defense against human conflict, but for the peaceful, profound observation of the cosmos. The Jantar Mantar in Jaipur is a landscape of stone mathematics, where entire buildings were designed not for shelter but for stargazing. These are not structures that house scientific tools, they are the tools themselves, each a monumental sculpture of pure geometric function. The Samrat Yantra, a colossal sundial, rises like a stone ramp toward the sky. Its towering triangular hypotenuse casts a shadow that moves with the sun, a sweeping hand across calibrated marble arcs that tells the time with an accuracy of just 2 seconds. This is geometry as a cosmic clockwork, a triangle's simple property harnessed to track the day. Nearby, the Ram Yantra consists of 2 complementary open cylinders, their floors and walls etched with a grid of precise scales. An observer standing inside can measure the altitude and azimuth of the sun or any star, reading the heavens directly from the lines inscribed in the stone. This direct, physical interface between human understanding and celestial motion is breathtaking. It represents a philosophy where knowledge was not abstract, but built into the very environment, a place where one could walk inside a scientific instrument and measure the universe with one's own shadow. This application of geometry was not for spiritual ascent or aesthetic harmony, but for pure, empirical discovery, a testament to a culture that saw the cosmos as a system to be decoded through shape and angle. This ambition to create a physical map of the heavens finds a stunningly different expression in another ancient culture, one that carved its celestial observations not into freestanding observatories, but directly into the floor of a desert. The Basilica of St. Mary of the Angels and Martyrs in Rome holds a secret clock in its floor. A slender brass meridian line runs like a gleaming thread through the marble, a direct incision of pure geometry into the heart of a sacred space. This line is the instrument of a grand celestial mechanism. High on the wall, a tiny hole captures a single beam of sunlight, projecting a brilliant spot onto the brass strip below. As the days and months pass, this point of light travels the length of the church, its precise location marking not only the hour of the day but the very passage of the seasons. The floor itself is a calendar with the signs of the zodiac inlaid along the meridian, so the sun's spot illuminates each constellation as our planet carries us through its annual journey. This was sacred architecture functioning as a cosmic timepiece, a place where the rhythms of prayer and the motions of the heavens were synchronized. The building became a bridge uniting celestial geometry with liturgical time, allowing the faithful to witness the turning of the year within the very walls where they worshipped. This profound fusion of time and geometry finds an even more ancient expression in a vast circular calendar carved directly into the English landscape. A slender blade of light pierces the heart of a stone spiral, marking a day unlike any other. High on Façade but in Choco Canyon, the ancestral Puebloans engineered a celestial event using nothing but shadow and stone. 3 massive rock slabs positioned with incredible foresight act as a natural aperture. They do not merely block the sun, they sculpt it. On the day of the summer solstice, this arrangement focuses the light into a single, sharp dagger that strikes directly through the center of the largest petroglyph spiral. Months later, at the winter solstice, the sun projects 2 distinct light daggers that perfectly bracket the same spiral on either side. This was not a random act of nature. It was a sophisticated, immovable calendar carved into the living rock, a testament to a profound understanding of solar geometry. The builders used the unchanging angles of the slabs to filter the shifting path of the sun, translating the grand, cyclical journey of our star into a precise annual light show. This simple yet brilliant geometric arrangement transformed a cliff face into an observatory, allowing a whole culture to synchronize its rituals and its life with the cosmos. It demonstrates that the most powerful applications of sacred geometry are often the most elegant, using minimal intervention to achieve maximum understanding. From this intimate and precise solar marker, our search for hidden patterns expands to a geometry of unimaginable scale, one that can only be fully comprehended from the vantage point of the sky itself. The Peruvian desert floor becomes a colossal sketchbook under the open sky. Here, the Nazca lines transform hundreds of square kilometers into a gallery of monumental art, where geometry is not built upward but drawn outward on a scale that defies human perspective. While the animal figures like the hummingbird and the spider capture the imagination, it is the pure geometric forms that truly astonish. Vast trapezoids stretch across the plains like giant ramps leading to nowhere. Perfectly straight lines run for over 30 miles, cutting across dry riverbeds and hills with unerring accuracy. Sharp triangles and complex spirals complete this sprawling desert diagram. The method of their creation was deceptively simple, yet its execution required profound knowledge. By carefully removing a layer of dark, sun-baked pebbles to expose the lighter, sandy soil beneath, the Nazca created high-contrast lines. This technique, however, belies the incredible geometric precision achieved. To render such perfect, large-scale shapes on an uneven, contoured landscape required sophisticated surveying techniques that could maintain proportion and alignment across vast distances. The purpose of these lines remains one of history's great puzzles. Were they sacred pathways for ceremonial processions, a giant astronomical calendar mapped onto the earth, or perhaps offerings to deities who would view them from the heavens? Whatever their intention, they represent a unique expression of sacred geometry. This is not geometry applied to a building, but geometry as the building itself. The entire desert plateau becomes the structure, and the lines are its walls and corridors, a testament to a culture that thought in magnitudes far beyond the human scale. This breathtaking ambition to use the earth itself as a canvas finds a fascinating counterpoint in the heart of a European capital, where geometry was used not to create vast forms, but to orchestrate the flow of light within a perfectly proportioned space. Bernini's royal staircase is an architectural sleight of hand, a corridor that seems to stretch into infinity. As you climb the Scala Regia within the Vatican, the walls subtly converge and the ceiling gracefully descends, shaping the space into a perfect trapezoid. This clever manipulation of forced perspective makes the path ahead appear far longer and more monumental than it truly is, building a sense of anticipation with every step. But the true geometric magic is even more profound. If you were to trace the flow of the handrail and the rising curve of the architecture, you would find the invisible path of a logarithmic spiral, often aligned with the golden ratio. This spiral does not simply sit within the design, it actively pulls you forward and upward, guiding your gaze and your journey toward the Sistine Chapel. Here, geometry is not used for structural strength or celestial alignment, but as a psychological tool. It orchestrates emotion, using perfect proportions to create a feeling of awe and spiritual ascent, transforming a simple staircase into a profound pilgrimage. This deliberate shaping of human experience through hidden mathematics shows just how versatile the silent language of geometry can be. Our next pattern demonstrates that this language can be so cleverly concealed that it defines a national symbol while remaining almost entirely unseen. A five-pointed star is secretly mapped onto the very heart of Washington, D.C. From an aerial view, the geometry becomes clear, with the Washington Monument itself forming the central anchor point. The tips of this vast pentagram are not random intersections, but the nation's most iconic landmarks: the White House, the Jefferson Memorial, the Lincoln Memorial, the Capitol Building, and the old Rayburn House Office Building. This precise alignment is too perfect to be a simple accident of urban planning. The presence of this symbol has sparked intense discussion, with many pointing to the well-documented interest that several founding fathers held in Freemasonry, a fraternal organization with deep roots in sacred geometry and symbolic architecture. For these individuals, geometric patterns were not mere decoration, but a language of divine order and enlightened principles. The intentional placement of these structures suggests that the city was conceived as more than a political center. It was designed to be a physical embodiment of an ideal, a nation founded on rational and harmonious principles, literally set in stone. Whether this pentagram was a deliberate code or a remarkable coincidence, its existence invites us to see the Capitol not just as a collection of buildings, but as a grand geometric statement. This exploration of urban scale patterns makes us wonder what other secrets are woven into the fabric of single, iconic structures, waiting to be read not from the sky, but from the ground up. Iron latticework soars upward in a geometry of pure confidence. The Eiffel Tower's skeleton reveals its secret not in its immense height, but in the simple, powerful shape repeated throughout its form, the equilateral triangle. This is the fundamental unit of its strength, the geometric key that allows iron to defy the wind. Look closely at the base where the four colossal pillars are braced by a web of crossbeams. Each of these supports is an assembly of equilateral triangles, a shape prized for its perfect balance and inherent rigidity. In an equilateral triangle, any force applied to one side is distributed evenly to the other two, a principle that makes the entire structure incredibly stable. This was not merely an aesthetic choice, it was an industrial age calculation for survival. The very curve of the pillars as they sweep upward was not arbitrary. It was derived from a mathematical formula designed to offer the most efficient resistance to wind shear, turning the entire tower into a single, graceful cantilever against the forces of nature. Gustave Eiffel was an engineer first, and his tower is a testament to the enduring power of fundamental geometry. Even as he built with the modern materials of the 19th century, he returned to one of the most ancient and stable forms to achieve something truly monumental. The result is a structure that feels both impossibly light and unshakably strong, a symbol of progress built upon timeless principles. This celebration of industrial geometry, however, would soon give way to a very different vision, one that rejected the straight line and the rigid triangle in favor of forms that seemed to have been grown, not built. The gateway arch in St. Louis captures a falling chain in stainless steel. Its soaring curve is not a simple parabola, but the precise shape of a weighted catenary, the natural arc formed by a chain hanging freely under its own weight. When this curve is inverted, it creates a structure of immense stability, an arch that supports itself with perfect geometric efficiency. The architect Eero Saarinen chose this form not just for its strength, but for its profound elegance, a single unbroken line that seems to both rise from the earth and reach for the sky simultaneously. Every calculation was made to ensure this 630-foot-tall monument could achieve its breathtaking slenderness without compromise, a testament to the timeless power of a fundamental shape. This modern marvel directly echoes the principles that guided the builders of ancient tombs, where stable, self-supporting forms were chosen to create monuments for eternity. The arch is more than a gateway, it is a bridge across time itself, proving that the same geometric truths that shaped our past continue to define our most ambitious visions for the future. This enduring dialogue between ancient form and modern function raises a compelling thought. If a simple hanging chain can inspire a national monument, what other everyday shapes around us hold the blueprint for the next architectural wonder? A tomb's entrance is a doorway into a geometric puzzle. The massive lintel stone above the entrance to the treasury of Atreus is not just a feat of strength, but a calculated element in a larger design. This single block of stone sits above a triangular relieving triangle, an empty space that cleverly redirects the immense weight of the structure away from the doorway itself. This precise void is a masterstroke of engineering, a deliberate geometric solution to a problem of pure physics. But the true marvel lies within. The burial chamber soars upward into a perfect corbelled dome, a beehive of stone built without any mortar or true arches. The builders achieved this by laying concentric rings of stone, each circle slightly smaller than the last, each block cantilevered inward just enough to overlap the one below. This created a smooth, parabolic curve that rose to a single capstone. The geometry here is one of pure compression, a perfect balance where every stone pushes against its neighbor, transferring the tremendous weight downward in a continuous, stable flow. This was not a random stacking of rocks, but a meticulously calculated geometric progression, requiring an intuitive understanding of forces that would take centuries for later cultures to formalize. The result is a space that has endured for millennia, a silent, enduring testament to a practical genius that understood how shape itself could create unshakable strength. This ancient mastery of using form to manage physical force invites a fascinating comparison. What happens when geometry is used not to support a structure, but to map the very body of the person who designed it? The human body became a universal ruler for the modern age. In the mid-20th century, the architect Le Corbusier sought to solve a fundamental problem of industrial design: how to create buildings and objects for mass production that still felt harmonious and human. His answer was the modular, a single system of proportions based on the golden ratio and the measurements of a 6-foot-tall man, his arm raised overhead. This figure was not just a reference, it was a geometric scaffold that dictated every dimension. In his Unité de Habitation, a vertical city in Marseille, the modular governed the entire structure. The height of the ceilings, the width of the windows, the depth of the balconies, even the layout of the apartments, all were derived from this proportional man. A resident living inside was subtly surrounded by spaces that resonated with their own physical form, creating an environment that felt intuitively right because it was mathematically aligned with human scale. This was the Vitruvian man reimagined for the era of the machine, an attempt to inject the timeless harmony of sacred geometry into the concrete and steel of modern life. Le Corbusier believed that this system could bring order and beauty to everything from a bookshelf to a metropolis, a democratic geometry for a new world. Yet this rational, human-centered vision of order stands in poetic contrast to another kind of geometry, one that seems to abandon the human form entirely to connect with something far more ancient and vast. Even the ruins of Glastonbury Abbey whisper their geometric secrets. The foundation stones of its Lady Chapel trace a shape of profound spiritual significance, the Vesica Piscis. Imagine two overlapping circles, their centers placed on each other's circumference, creating a central almond-shaped form where they meet. This was not merely an architectural flourish. To medieval masons, this shape represented the sacred intersection of heaven and earth, the divine realm overlapping with our own. The very proportions of the chapel are believed to be derived from this figure, with the length and width of the sanctuary corresponding to the geometric relationships born from those two perfect circles. Further analysis suggests the builders also employed Pythagorean triangles, ratios of whole numbers that were seen as expressions of cosmic harmony. This was geometry as a form of theology. By walking into this chapel, a worshipper was not just entering a building, they were stepping into a symbolic diagram of creation itself, a space designed to elevate the spirit through the silent, powerful language of mathematical perfection. The stones were laid not just to shelter, but to teach, embedding layers of mystical meaning directly into the foundation. This use of geometry to map a spiritual journey finds its ultimate expression not in a single room, but in a path that winds across an entire continent. The octagon became a geometric sermon in stone. Across early Christian Europe, the baptistery was rarely a simple room. It was a distinct, centrally planned structure, and its most sacred shape was the 8-sided figure. In Florence and Pisa, these octagonal buildings stood as powerful visual catechisms for those about to undergo the ritual of baptism. The number 8 was the key. Just as the world was created in 7 days, the 8th day symbolized a new beginning, the dawn of a fresh creation and the promise of resurrection. The geometry itself enacted this spiritual transition. The octagon is a form that mediates between the square, representing the solid, 4-cornered earth, and the perfect circle of the heavens. To step into an octagonal baptistery was to enter a space that physically represented the believer's passage from an earthly life to a heavenly one, a rebirth made visible through pure mathematics. Every line of the architecture taught the doctrine, reinforcing that this was not merely a washing with water, but a profound transformation of the soul. This deep connection between form and faith ensured the sacred rite was understood on an instinctual, architectural level. From this geometry of new beginnings, our journey into hidden patterns finds its final turn, moving from the promise of rebirth to the geometry of eternal remembrance. Even the Taj Mahal's perfect symmetry holds a secret dynamic pulse. While its iconic dome and reflecting pool present a picture of flawless balance, the four minarets that frame the mausoleum tell a different, more organic story. Their elegant fluting and gentle inward taper are not merely decorative. They trace the graceful, unfolding curve of a logarithmic spiral, a pattern intimately connected to the Fibonacci sequence. This is the same spiral you see in the chambered nautilus shell or the seed head of a sunflower, a blueprint for growth written into the fabric of life itself. By weaving this living, breathing geometry into the minarets, the architects performed a kind of magic. They prevented the entire structure from feeling cold or rigidly mathematical, instead infusing the white marble with a sense of natural, almost living proportion. The sublime beauty we feel is not just from perfect symmetry, but from this brilliant, hidden interplay between the static ideal and the dynamic, growing spiral. It is a final, breathtaking demonstration that humanity's greatest monuments achieve their power not by following a single rule, but by harmonizing many layers of geometric truth. Across 25 different patterns, from the pyramids to the Parthenon, from cosmic maps to acoustic wonders, we have seen this same silent language at work. So what does it all mean? If cultures separated by vast oceans and thousands of years all arrived at the same hidden principles for their most important structures, it suggests something profound about us. This pursuit of geometric order seems to be a fundamental human impulse, a shared compass pointing toward harmony, meaning, and a deep, enduring desire to leave a beautiful, intelligent mark upon the world. This consistent recurrence of the same geometric codes is one of history's most compelling mysteries. How could cultures separated by oceans and centuries all arrive at the identical blueprint for a perfect arch or the same divine proportion? Two possibilities emerge. The first is independent discovery, the idea that the human mind, when seeking harmony and stability, naturally gravitates toward these fundamental truths, much like multiple inventors stumbling upon the same physical law. The second, more tantalizing idea is diffusion, the slow migration of a sacred science along ancient trade routes, passed from master to apprentice in a chain of knowledge stretching back to a forgotten source. The evidence suggests the builders of the Great Pyramid, the Parthenon, and the Gothic cathedrals were far more than skilled laborers. They were philosopher-mathematicians, individuals who understood that specific shapes and ratios held a universal power, capable of creating structures that were not only physically stable and aesthetically sublime, but spiritually potent. This was not public knowledge. It was a guarded secret, a sacred science likely preserved within closed guilds or mystery schools. Initiates would have learned that a building designed with the golden ratio did more than please the eye. It resonated with the very order of the cosmos, creating a space where heaven and earth could touch. This knowledge was their most precious tool, and they did not write it down in books. Instead, they encoded it in the only library durable enough to hold it for millennia, the stone and mortar of the monuments themselves. Each perfect curve and calculated angle was a sentence in this silent text, left for future generations to decipher. This legacy of the master builders fundamentally challenges our view of history. We often imagine the past as a linear march from simple to complex, from primitive to advanced, but the silent language of geometry reveals a different story, one of a tapestry woven across time and space with threads of profound, shared understanding. It suggests that the pursuit of meaning through mathematics is a constant in the human spirit, a universal compass pointing toward beauty, truth, and our enduring desire to build a bridge to the eternal. From the pie of the pyramids to the spirals of the Taj Mahal, these 25 patterns are far more than architectural curiosities. They are the fingerprints of a profound and advanced knowledge, a universal language of shape and number used to encode mathematical truth, celestial cycles, and deep spiritual beliefs directly into stone. This silent language connects the great civilizations of our world, revealing a shared quest to build bridges to the eternal. The next time you see a photograph of an ancient wonder, or are fortunate enough to stand before one in person, look beyond the weathered surface. Look for the circles, the triangles, the golden ratios hidden in plain sight. When you find them, you will be seeing the world through the eyes of the master builders themselves, deciphering a code left for us across the centuries. If this journey into history's hidden dimension has captivated you, we invite you to subscribe for more explorations into the unknown. And we would love to hear from you. What is the most fascinating geometric pattern you have ever encountered? Share your discoveries in the comments below.